everyone, and welcome to another exciting episode of the Team Lead Talks podcast. I'm your host, Andrew Becker. Today, we have Karla Saladino out of Manhattan in New York from Mirador Real Estate. Welcome, Karla.
Hi, thank you for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. So I was reading your bio earlier, and you are very impressive. You started your own firm when you were 25, and you're a powerhouse in the Manhattan real estate market, closing, 1,500 deals a year with over 10,000 deals closed under your belt, which not a whole lot of people can say. So first and foremost, I want to say congratulations on all of your success. Very, very difficult to do. And I'm sure those listening would want to hear how in the world you got to that point. But if we can, Karla, if you can kind of give us like a very quick overview of who you are, who you service, and then when you got started, we can kind of just get right into it.
Sure. So I started right out of undergrad. I was accepted to law school. I took a job in brokerage for the summer. I was looking for an apartment. I was offered a job by that firm, so I figured I'd give it a try, and I sort of took off from there. So I worked there until they started building up some of my commissions and stopped paying me.
Yeah.
And sometimes you need something that bad to happen to kind of fuel your revenge for success. Sometimes if you're too comfortable, it doesn't work as well. So
Right.
When that happened, I was dead broke and needed my commissions, and they would say things like, oh, it didn't come yet. And then I'd contact the landlord and they'd have a canceled check with his signature on it.
Mhm.
So I left that firm, went to another firm. I deferred law school for a year. I'm still deferring.
We'll get there one day.
The rest is sort of history. I started my own firm with two partners when I was 25. We then rolled that firm into a larger firm, which acquired us. And I stayed with that firm for quite a while, learned a lot. And that firm was getting acquired many years later. And I started Mirador with some excellent partners.
How long ago did you start Mirador?
Over 10 years now, maybe 12.
Okay. And it's a team, correct? Can you walk us through kind of the
Yeah, so it's a freestanding firm. We work for our main focus is working for developers. We work for real estate developers. We do a lot of turnarounds. We work in rental assets that will have, 400 units, and they want to increase rent rolls, or they want to make, experience better. They want to refinance and they need the building to financially look a certain way. We also do ongoing leasing for landlords that have one unit, individual owners that maybe we sold to them and they have one unit, up to landlords that have 19,000 units nationally. We also step in and we help with some of the major management companies figure out New York City leasing.
Yeah.
And our team of agents here typically has almost 10 years of experience, but still works in leasing, which makes us really unique. So we get these really spectacular high closing ratio agents, because as we know, in real estate, lead generation is very expensive. So the more of those leads that can close, the less you have to spend on marketing and so forth. We also do a lot of marketing, obviously, but our main thing is leasing and sales.
Gotcha.
And a lot of the clients that we work with, we sort of shepherd into their first home, their first purchase as well, because I do believe that home equity is extremely important, and it's a way to break out of sort of generational rent poorness. So we do try to help people see that also, because all of the members here are full-fledged real estate agents. We don't hire any brand new agents. They all come from other firms, and we can do both, which is exciting.
Cool. So you're doing resale, you're doing leasing, and then your kind of MO for who you bring into your company or on your team as seasoned real estate agents.
Yeah, we don't have a training program for brand new agents. I find those to be expensive and not that rewarding.
Right.
I think statistically in New York, people who make their living from their real estate license, after 2 years, there's only 5% of them left compared to who went to real estate school. It's a very narrow field. So when I used to train new agents, which was my job at the company that acquired my firm, we could do it, and I had a much higher ratio than that, but it was exhausting because some people aren't built for it. So we rely heavily here also on disc testing and things like that to try to acquire and find the type of agents that we need for our model.
Okay. And can you walk us through your Just to be clear, is Mirador, is it a brokerage or is there a
Yeah,
team involved or is it both?
it's a brokerage. It's a
Okay.
brokerage. I'm the managing partner, but I'm also the top listing agent here. So it's a little bit unique in that sense. So it can feel like a team
Okay.
because a lot of the agents here work on the company stuff or my stuff. And then agents are obviously working on their own as well. But right now, sadly, I am still the top listing agent at the firm. I would
Gotcha.
love to be beat.
Yeah.
Yeah,
How long
that's
have
our
you
goal.
held that crown in your hand for the top
You know
listing
what?
agent?
I'd let anybody rip it out of my hand. I
Okay.
welcome it. So this year, every year I kind of bang my head against the wall of like, how are we going to get this happening? Because the best thing I would like to see is my agents be even more independent, from me. They
Hmm.
can tell me to F off and they don't have to, that would be great. But A, they don't really want to, but B, I've hired, different managers and try to get people on that path. But this year I hired Tom Ferry, actually. I
Okay.
caved and hired Tom Ferry for team coaching. I'm paying for it for everybody that wants it that works here to see if we can kind of knock that crown off my head here.
How's it going so far?
Good.
Good.
Good. We haven't started the team coaching yet, but the coach that we have, I am really enjoying working with. I really like him.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So you're trying to get dethroned.
Yes.
Try to see if someone is willing to, take over.
Keep trying, man. Keep
Yeah.
trying. So some people have come, a quarter of the way, which I'm proud of, but it's like, try harder.
Yeah. Nice. Good competition over there.
Healthy. Yeah. I love competition. I think it's really
Walk us
rewarding.
through the structure of, I know it's kind of like a brokerage hybrid team, it sounds like,
Yeah.
kind of, right? But walk us through, like, a lot of people listen to this podcast either are on a team or maybe thinking about starting their own team or have started. And it's really tough, Karla, because you're like, all right, let's make the Karla and Andrew team. Who's doing sales? Who's doing ops? Who's doing transaction coordination? Who's doing this? Who's doing that? What should our first
I
hire
think
be?
neither of us should be doing transaction coordination. That would be my first answer.
No,
You know?
I just meant on the team. And then you're like,
Yeah.
how do we hire for this? What order do we hire in? Can you walk us through kind of
I
your
would
org?
say if you're sitting there as a top producer in your firm and you're thinking of starting a team, the last thing you should be doing and the first thing you should be hiring is transaction coordination. Because when you look at disc testing, which I'm a big fan of, and you have that high D, high I profile,
Yep.
you want an SC sitting in your transaction coordination role. You want someone who actually hates talking to clients, who does not want to be you, who
Loves
really is
checklists and
attentive to
organization.
detail, likes to sit in an air conditioned space.
Yep.
Most of my top agents, we call ourselves outside cats. We could be in the office for only so long and then we just get antsy. We have to go out, we have to talk to people, we have to have conversations. So I would say in starting a team, your number one hire is your transaction coordinator, because deals will fall apart due to you not paying attention to the transaction coordination. And
Right.
there are great services out there where if you can't, I have three, but if you can't hire full-time W-2 transaction coordinators yet, you can pay a little bit more per transaction and do it a la carte, and a lot of times the brokerages that you work at will offer that as well. So I would say number one, transaction coordination, budget for that.
Yep.
Number two would obviously be that like ride or die sort of admin that can help you get your listings up. I think listing coordination is extremely important. Managing, I like ISAs. I like inbound salespeople that can grab your leads and talk to them when you're out in the field. I think that checking your phone while you're with a client is extremely rude and going to cut into your closing ratio. So I like when I'm in the field that I don't have to think about what's going on in the background. So I would say, transaction coordination and an admin that's actually also good with your clients on the phone, CRM, making sure that, hey, I actually do want to apply for that, or I do want to put in an offer here, that person could take that person through it and they're not, that person's a little bit more sociable than your transaction coordination team, which needs to really stick by the rules all the time.
Definitely.
Not be people pleasers.
Yeah, I think when we first started out with our team in 2013, we hired out a third party woman who just did transactions, kind of like one off, but we invested in the cost of goods sold of that. And then when we got for the agents on our team, but then when we got really into the weeds on the finances, we made that part of one of the administrative fees that we would have in our agreements. And if the agent wasn't able to get it, it came out of their end. But if they got it, it just covered it, right? And then Our other really key hire very early on was an ISA, like you said, a phone answer, appointment setter, because it got tough. I'm sure, I mean, it sounds like you have a tremendous amount of lead volume that you're working. If you're
Tremendous.
putting
Yeah.
out those kind of numbers, there's no way I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would guess that once you got, the ball rolling and your engine going, you weren't answering every single phone call and following up with every single lead. You leveraged that
Absolutely
and
not. I've
hired the
always built out technology here. Instead of building out traditional CRM tech, because we are located in so many buildings across the city, that we would train up like a team-based lead answering. So our agents would be on these teams where the leads would flow into a team, and then someone on the team could grab that lead and answer it. And
right.
because agents can work anytime they want, we found that people were answering those 8 o'clock at night leads, 10 o'clock at night leads. They were grabbing it because there was competition in the lead pool. But we made sure not to make it just an open lead pool. We made sure to only put people that were trained and had proven closing ratios in those properties or in those areas in those lead pools. So we have maybe like 15 lead pools just in Manhattan, maybe 20. And then someone can work on multiple pools, but not everybody is on every pool, and vice versa. So as people become more experts in certain things, because what I would notice, sometimes somebody in a building would need 15 leads before they closed a deal where somebody else would need 5. So that means I'm wasting 10 if that person stays in that pool. And those are the numbers that we sort of watch.
Yeah. Yeah. Interested leads per deal is crucial. We started tracking that, and
it's wild what you learn. You're like,
eye-opening. Yeah.
Sometimes people are just going through something too, so if you check it quarterly, you're like, what happened?
Right.
And you can pull that agent in and see what's going on with them.
Yeah. Conversion tracking is another thing. Do you have minimums that you set for these lead pools, or just leads in general for your
I'll
agents?
take them off the pool, put them on a different pool, pull them in for coaching, but yeah, I've definitely taken people off buildings for minimum. Of course. You have to, because your obligation is to the client.
How are you handling that? We'll talk about like agent accountability for a little bit now. So you are running sales, but there's also volume of leads coming in, all day, all night, and you have different agents picking those up. So it sounds like you're kind of gatekeeping a little bit of who on the team and what specific area in the city is getting them. But then how are you holding those people accountable? What kind of metrics or KPIs are you looking at, and how are you tracking those?
We check with the closing team to see how clean their deals are. That's one thing. If they're constantly handing in these bombs of deals and the closing team has to do a lot of extra hours on them, we'll take them off that team until they're retrained. Sometimes we'll have them shadow more successful agents. Sometimes they just don't have the closing ratio to work here. That's a thing too. But often it's project based. There are certain accounts that I can work on and have a 1 out of 3 closing ratio. And then there are certain accounts that I've never closed anything on. I don't believe in it. Okay. I can't do it, So sometimes it's just about moving them to a different team or different area. We have some agents that you can put them on anything and they'll close it. But a lot of times it either has to do with higher end stuff, is a very different salesperson than lower end stuff. And we can have agents that knock it out of the park on, the shares and the low end stuff. And then once they hit a $20,000 or $25,000 a month apartment, it's like they just freeze because they don't see why anybody would pay that. They're uncomfortable with it. So we're mindful of that. We're also mindful with sort of the types of client. Like if you go through your agents and you look at the closed deals, you'll notice, like, I deal really well with those like really yelly attorneys, finance guys, the ones that will just shut other people down. I don't close often couples. I don't have the dynamics to deal with their BS, of the power struggles. And my mom likes this, like, you're married, I don't, if you were to look at my range, whenever there's like a lot of shares, a lot of decision makers, I'd rather have the guy screaming on the phone that the agent's like, I can't deal with this. I'm like, oh, I could totally do it. That guy's sending me gifts by the end of the day. I will take that difficult narcissist all day.
Okay.
So everybody kind of has their thing. I've had agents here are masterful with 4 bedroom shares and 4 guarantors, and they can do it, where I'm just like, this power struggle, and couples especially, the power struggle in couples just drives me crazy.
Right.
I don't do well there. So if you kind of look at client type like that, you can almost see where agents fit in. Who's the client that they have the highest closing ratio with, and you can route leads that way.
Yeah. Out of curiosity, because I know we spoke about tech a little bit when we talked, a few months back. Do you track like that level of detail where it's like single, couple, like
No, a fair housing, so we do not track that. It's only if we're looking at like a yearly review. I'll tell agents, or when they come through and they're interviewing with us, I'll say, go through your closed deals and see if there's any themes. And there's always a theme. Yeah. But no,
So
we would never track that. We would never tag that, because that, you have to be really careful with that kind of stuff.
Right.
You know, even though, because couples versus shares versus this could almost look like a familial status thing. So it's just important that we put, what's more important to me is that if you call and you're getting the best agent that can handle your situation, that's what we look for. But no, there's no way to really do that in CRM. We do it more based off closed deals or one-on-ones, or just seeing like, if you're going to start marketing to buyers, or if you're going to start marketing to sellers, you know, where's your niche? And there's always a pattern there that people don't really look at in their closed deals, but you'll notice a pattern.
Yeah, it's funny that
or it's all 2 beds, or it's all things over $10,000 a month versus things sub 4,000, and you can find out what areas of your coaching that you need.
Okay, yeah, it's funny that your pattern is those types of people. I would have never guessed that with how much.
Like narcissist guarantor that owns a baseball team that's just screaming and made 2 of my people cry. Love it.
You'll take that gladly.
Take it all day.
Yeah, nice.
Yeah, new couple that is, the mom is trying to date the son and the daughter's also trying to date this. That stuff, I'm like, oh my God, you know, like, but we get those all the time in New York. And there are people that are masterful at it. And I'm just like,
well, it's
this
good
dynamic is exhausting. I'd rather be yelled at.
Yeah, you have other people on the team that will take that. And I'm sure they
do great, you know, and if you look at what deals I close, they tend to be high end, you know, very strong personalities. And like, when I know you're in Alexandria, I lived in Alexandria when I worked at the White House. And in the White House, I was a confidential assistant. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that is just keeping things confidential. You know, we deal with heads of state. We deal with, you know, it's kind of like the sports and entertainment is me in our company. You know, nothing really intimidates me. There's always a high level of confidentiality, and we can work with those clients. I know what buildings we can sneak them in and out of. And that's a lot of what I deal with. And then a lot of irrational yelling. So
both ends. The
moving is stressful, you know, and you just have to realize that moving is stressful for people, and they're going to melt down on you a little bit, and it's all right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So both ends, you have the crazy narcissist and the sports athlete, movie stars.
They're the same.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
It's one and the same, and they're managers, and they're, you know, or talking them off the ledge. So it's the same.
Okay. Yeah. Cool.
Same personality, high up in finance, very similar personality. It's all the same.
Right. So let's talk about, Karla, with those kind of numbers and that many deals that you do, let's talk about marketing. So how are you marketing yourselves? What's the type of, 1,500 deals a year isn't just 1,500 leads coming in. There's probably way more than that. So what are those ratios? But most importantly, what's like your top 3 marketing channels that you run, and how are you organizing them? How are you figuring that out?
Luckily, we're very good on the listing side of things. So when you're good on the listing side, you can get a lot of lead gen. Mm-hmm. We do a lot of broker to broker stuff. We're very open to working with other brokers. We're always really friendly about that. So we do a lot of broker to broker marketing. I think that's really important to do, because a lot of these ILSs, Zillow, so forth, want to charge so much more and more and more of your deal. I just put a new sales listing up. Here, our Zillow product is called Street Easy in New York. And I put a sales listing up, and they wanted, I believe, $800 to list so I could get my own leads. $800, or else my leads would go to an agent who was purchasing them.
Oh, really?
$800? Yeah. So to me, the more organic marketing you can do, the more wait lists, the more you can like work that CRM and let your CRM know, hey, we're getting this listing if anybody wants it, and rent it before Zillow even gets its hands on it. They'll probably assassinate me for saying that. But you know, the fact that people don't realize, to advertise a sale on any Zillow product and get your own leads, like, clients, when they hear this, are astounded that if they write in on a sales listing, it's going to an agent that's never been to that sales listing, unless the person listing it wants to pay their extortionary fee. So this whole thing about every sale should be on Zillow for transparency, that's not why they want it on Zillow. They want it on Zillow so you give them the $800 for every listing. Not
Right.
every listing is giving you $800 in commission after you're done,
Yeah.
So you really need to know, like, I think the more organic stuff you can do and building up your mailing list and building up your stuff, the better off you're going to be, because soon these vendors are just going to take your whole commission and eliminate you. So the more sort of behind the scenes stuff you could do before a listing hits, the better. And
Yeah. 100%.
frankly, utilize that network of brokers in your MLS.
Yeah.
You're already paying for your MLS. It costs nothing compared to some of these other products. Really, really use that. I know a lot of people try to get like direct deals and stuff. To me, it's not worth it. Like, put everything out in your MLS first, get it out there, get your other brokers involved, and get that thing sold, because that also benefits your seller to not keep stuff hidden.
No, I agree. The networking from broker to broker is super important. And I think that's, that's what you just were talking about.
Well, if you want to be treated with respect, treat them with respect.
Yeah.
It's extremely important. And that's what'll really help you out.
Exactly. So you mentioned mailers. Are you also sending direct mail?
No, not yet. No. We probably will.
Okay. How?
Yeah, we haven't yet. I've heard that works great. It's just nothing that I've focused on yet.
Yeah, one of our top lead gen sources, the PPC, and then direct mail is our second. So anyone that comes into our database, we're also mailing, we're also texting and following up. Out of curiosity, Karla, we can kind of like talk numbers again. What kind of volume in terms of lead from your marketing efforts are you seeing every month, every quarter to close that kind? Because what is that? 1,500 deals a year is over 100 a month, right?
Mm-hmm.
So what kind of lead volume do you need to do that kind of?
It's tremendous. So we're seeing, I'd have to pull the numbers out of our CRM, but it's at minimum, because I know, because we've hit limits, it's over 50,000 a year.
Wow.
Yeah.
And doing that through what's like your primary channel? Like, where are all those? That's a lot of leads coming in.
In leasing, it's probably Street Easy. For Zillow products. Zillow products leasing as opposed to sales is different.
Yeah.
And then we have a marketing firm that just does marketing and leasing, not brokerage, in Connecticut. We're also in Texas, so we use some of those ILSs. And repeat business, business that comes back, business that writes in on multiple things. But again, when you're repping a lot of properties, we'll have 40 to 100 listings up at any given time. You get a lot of lead flow.
Yeah. And I'm sure there's opportunity too, since you handle the leasing and the resales, of converting a renter into a purchaser at some point in time.
Yeah. No, there's tons, and we have over a decade of that data.
Yep. Okay. Let me ask you about your team or the brokerage size. How many agents do you currently oversee? We
try to keep it under 30. I think right now we're at like 23 to 25.
Okay. And then for accountability purposes, how are you doing? Like, one of the problems that we had on our team was we had people come as agents. We had the support, like ISAs, transaction, listing coordination, admin, that kind of thing. And we paid for marketing. Our value proposition to our team was appointments. Like, we'd set an appointment for you and just put it on your calendar. And then it was really tough because we wouldn't hear, what happened on the appointment. They wouldn't follow up with it. So I'm curious, like, you have 23 agents and you're doing tons and tons of deals. How are you staying on top of all this?
When you book an agent, at least a good agent, their appointments, there's a disconnect because they might not want that appointment. We don't book their appointments for them. We let them take a lead, because that act of, I want this lead, taking that lead, we can track how many leads they're taking versus appointments versus, closing. But I found when someone else books their appointment, unless you're so in sync with that appointment booker, they don't like that. They immediately resent that appointment. So our value prop is that we will help you build your book of business. We will give you leads. You can grab leads. You can, take them to our stuff. You take them to other stuff. But we give leads. We found when we did appointment bookings, exactly what you were talking about was happening, because then you book them one bad appointment or a no-show. Now they hate you and your appointment bookers forever. And there's resentment that grows, and they don't want to give follow-up, and they want to say all your appointments are crap. when the lead, I let them talk to the leads and determine if they want to book an appointment with that lead. If they don't, they throw it back in the pond. Somebody else can grab that lead. I find that that has a much bigger buy-in.
No, that's a really good point. So part of the feedback was when there was a no-show, when it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to think about it. It's not like a come and sign me type of thing. It was always like, let's listen to the call of the appointment setter. Did they ask all the right questions? Let's redo the script. This lead source sucks. That fire this person, do this. And it was always
your appointment booker has to be so into your brain and know who you would spend time with and who you think is a waste of time that it's very hard to do for agents that they don't really know.
Yeah, one of the things to combat against that from happening is we started tracking. So we kept that proposition for our agents, but we started tracking from like a buyer seller level and then a lead source level and then the category. So we were like, oh, Karla's really good at direct mail leads, specifically postcards, specifically this kind of postcard. So we started getting data on like who wouldn't do well on a Zillow lead versus who was absolutely crushing it on Zillow. So that helped big time.
Yes, you can absolutely do that. I think the other thing too is that your appointment bookers need to pitch the person that they're setting the appointment with. So after they talk to them and they say, all right, I'm hearing you, you seem to like pre-war apartments, you want somebody with an expertise in like those small buildings. I have a guy who's been doing this for 10 years. He's closed over X number of deals. This is your agent. It's almost like matching them with the agent and then letting the agent pick it up at that point. Yes. But also having like sort of a hype man for the agent that they're setting them up with will create more stickiness, because with social proof selling, and this person's closed 2,500 deals that look like me, because I'm licensed in all of New York State, a lot of people will approach me for upstate New York, Catskills, Hamptons, and I always tell them, hey, let me research the me of the Hamptons. Let me find the guy who knows off-market stuff in the North Fork of Long Island. Because although I can go with you on that appointment, I can make a referral fee. Let's find the me of there and let me find that person for you and set up that referral. Because, if I've sold exactly 0 houses in the Hamptons and this guy's coming in with a $10 million budget, I'm doing him a disservice by not actually partnering with the person who sells the most $10 million houses. The other thing that happens is people come to the market and say, I have $1 million to spend. I want to work with Ryan Serhant. Serhant's really good at high end. Him working on your $1 million transaction, he's not going to be that interested. You should work with somebody on his team that focuses on like first time home buyers, and that's all they close, and they know how to handle those objections, and they know all the good houses out there. So I find that if the person on the phone can really dig in and get to know the agents and like hype up that agent as to why I'm matching you with them. But if for any reason you don't like them, call me back. That is so much more effective than just booking appointments for them. And I'm all for like booking an appointment, and maybe you book an appointment, but that agent gets to call the client and be like, hey, it's me. I know you heard about me through our booker, but I just want to get a little bit deeper as to what you're looking for. I know we have an appointment at 3:00 on Tuesday, but like, let's dig in a little deeper. That works better than not letting them really have too much contact before.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's importance in the handoff and doing the handoff this kind of the same way every single time, so that doesn't happen and they talk with me and then you show up and we ran into that a lot too, Karla. It was like Andrew, the appointment setter, would book it and Karla, the agent, would show up and they'd be like, where's Andrew?
You have a totally different vibe. Yeah.
And then it was like weird and maybe a little awkward or they didn't like
you don't have the same stickiness. So I rarely will book appointments for an agent unless I'm like so sure. And usually I'm texting with the agent and being like, hey, this is what I'm dealing with on the phone. Can you do this at 3? Like, there's got to be a little bit more respect for the agent as well, instead of like, well, I see on your calendar you're open at 3. And they're like, I'd rather be doing a million other things than dealing with this client right now. So
we ran into that.
Sure that they can make that appointment.
It's tough. It's kind of like a relationship, like with your agents and the appointments that are like, they have to get to know and like really and trust each other. And it takes time. And it also, for us, it was like, how are you going to automate that? So we built that in so they could say like, the Zillow lead came in. Well, who's good with Zillow and available by looking at calendars? But then we would do that warm handoff. So someone would set an appointment, we would assign it to someone based on whatever criteria, and then they would call to confirm the appointment and introduce themselves. But the
Yeah.
appointments that would have already said, you're going to be meeting with Karla. She's amazing. She loves, Soho. She works there all the time.
Yeah, and she's closed 50 deals there. Like that's what people really want to hear. I don't want to be handed off to the new person.
Right, right. And I think for, anyone listening that's like, well, this is tough kind of doing that, think about like other business models, like a doctor's office or like a dentist's office. Like you call, you speak with the receptionist with the expectation of meeting with the dental hygienist and then the dentist. For real estate, it can be the same. You just have to have it very well organized and sort of pre-thought out. So you're setting expectations the right way, and then they appreciate that.
I would also build up like strong online profiles for these agents. So when you're booking with the agent, you can send through their online profile, their videos, their content, so they could really get to know them before meeting with them.
Yeah, we always felt weird doing it that way early on, but then we're like, wait a second, what if we just say you're not going to be meeting with Andrew, you're going to be meeting with Karla? And it was fine.
Oh, always say,
yeah. Just said it up front, like before we were trying to almost like, I don't know if hide it is the right description for that, but
yeah, it's the wrong way to go.
No, once we were just like, yeah, you're meeting with Karla. She's this, she's that, she's awesome. They're like, awesome, great. I just want to sell my house.
People love a celebrity agent, so make your agents celebrities and really touch on all of the achievements that they've had.
Yeah. Can we switch topics a little bit? I watch all of your videos that you post, and I was watching a really interesting one. No, they're really good. So watching an interesting one on AI. And I think we share a little bit of the same thinking around AI, where I am of the thinking that AI should not replace every conversation all the time. And the video I was watching was you talking about the ability for you to see like an AI conversation happening with like a $15,000 unit that may or may not have been available. And AI,
it's like disqualifying the client. It's unbelievable.
AI being like, oh, it's not available. But what are your thoughts on, like, for me, I'm like, let's use AI to do data analysis or trend analysis, or the low level hanging fruit of like texting back from a template. What are your thoughts on, I'm just curious to hear, like AI bots texting people, calling people? I don't know if you use
I've had that. I don't love it.
Do you do
that? No, we don't do that. It's rare for me to find AI that I think is acceptable yet in real estate to talk to clients.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't mind. So one time I like wrote in on a form, maybe it was doctor, I don't know what it was. I wrote in on a form and then I got an immediate phone call and it said, hold for the next, like, whatever. Mm-hmm. And then it hit a group of people that could talk to me about what I wrote in on the form on, and then it connected me with an operator. I thought that was effective. That wasn't really AI, but that was an effective use.
Right.
A lot of times if I'm calling, it's because I can't find what I wanted on the site or the FAQ or the chat. And AI is only what you feed it. It's just, to me, it's glorified Google, so if the answer didn't lie in your website or your chatbot or anything else, it's not going to lie in this phone call because it's pulling from the same data. So I haven't found one yet that's that effective with talking to clients, or, I don't know. I think if it could cut down on our paperwork, if it could cut down on our research and all that, which it still has not done, if it could cut down on disclosure forms and making sure that gets automatically sent out, which, again, yet to find a program that will do that effectively and like fill out all the data and that's what would actually save us time so we can have more meaningful conversations.
Yeah, I think that, hitting the nail on the head there, it's like, what low-hanging fruit can it help with, or can it proactively identify for us if like some issue is about to happen or has happened, so you can proactively get it taken care of? But I've heard...
Yeah, if it could notice like fair housing violation language in my agents' conversations, that would be great. But what I find is a lot of the AI programs don't integrate with a lot of the real estate programs because they all want to own their own thing. Yeah. And a lot of the AI in the real estate programs is absolute crap, where there might be better AI out there, but it doesn't integrate with your CRM. Yeah. And here you are in a circle because companies don't like to work with each other.
I know. Yeah. One of the things that we have we're like very slow to add this into our tech is We have call, like obviously telephone and texting built in, but our calls are all recorded, and then AI will summarize it with like action items and put
Yeah.
that
Do you do
in
that
the
in Follow
activity.
Boss?
No, so we built our own on top of Salesforce, and we
Got it.
integrated.
Yeah, Follow Up Boss does that now. They take
Yeah,
all your phone calls, they summarize them and put bullets. Love that. That
yeah.
that we are using. That's
That I
fantastic.
think is super effective, but I've also heard horror stories from other people who have like these AI appointment setters saying crazy stuff. And
They do
it's
say
like,
crazy stuff.
yeah, they do. And then like one time I went to like someone's website and I was talking in like a bot thing. And it was like a bot and a person kind of talking over each other. And we set an
Yeah,
appointment
I've
and then
seen
the
that
person,
also. The bot
yeah,
needs to stop when the
yeah, it was
person jumps in,
weird.
and that's usually pretty good. So the AI that I do like is when it can kick off the conversation. Somebody has a question, AI can answer, it answers it, but you see it happening. And then if you want to jump in, the bot stops and you're not fighting with each other. Yeah.
Yeah, it led to mass confusion, and I actually set an appointment. I thought I was talking to like you. I was talking to a bot and you, but you were like coming in sporadically. I set an appointment with who I thought was you, but it was the bot. And then when the appointment came around and I texted you, you're like, "What the heck are you talking about?" I was like, "That is where AI can really screw things up." And I was like, "This is why."
It has. No, I've tested a lot of it and I'm not that impressed with anything that integrates yet. The summaries are good. The summaries of phone calls are great.
Yeah, it's a lot of shiny objects with this AI.
Yeah.
It's important. I think it's good for like creation of email templates and text templates for drips and stuff like that, but that you tweak after.
It's definitely helped. I like some of the virtual staging programs. That's been really helpful
Yeah,
because although we still do the virtual staging, it's allowed us to do it much faster. That's been really nice.
right.
We use some with LiDAR that create floor plans for us as we're in spaces. That's very
Mhm.
cool. And then it can kind of figure out what the things are, from the from the video. Be like, oh, this is a bathroom. This is this. I could label floor plans. I like that.
Yeah,
Some design stuff I like, but as far as client interaction, I haven't seen any that's been that impressive yet.
yeah. One other thing, not to like harp on, but when the FCC came out with like the texting regulations about, if you text someone that was not opted into your marketing,
Yep.
the fine per text is insane. It's like last time I checked, it was $1,500 per text that you send. I personally think, and this is just my opinion, so who knows what's actually going to happen. I think over time the FCC is going to crack down on these robo AI calls, and you're going to
I
have
hope
to
so.
disclaimer it and say like,
They're weird.
we're talking to a robot. I mean, I can tell. Number one, it's always really funny to me when someone comes to me and they're like, oh, check this out. Will you put it in your CRM? And I'm like, well, can I hear it? And it's like, it's going to sound awesome. And the second they start talking, I'm like, I can tell this is a robot. Like, I already don't like it, but they think it's awesome because it like asks a question. I'm like, what happened to real estate? What happened to like the person to person connection? Like, where's people are like, oh, I don't want to talk to anyone. I don't want to do any deals, but I want the commission checks. That's what I want. That doesn't exist. I don't think that's ever going to happen.
Yeah, I find with higher end, higher price point purchases, people still want a person in the middle.
Yeah, yeah. So me personally, I think there's going to be some law that's going to come out soon that will put some of these robo AI appointment setter conversation ones out of business, or just have the disclaimer thing up front, and then they're going to not like it and they're going to want to talk to someone else. But who knows? All right. Well, Karla, we talked about a lot of really cool stuff today. I know you're really busy, but if someone is in Manhattan and they want to get a hold of you, if they're looking to rent or looking to buy or sell, how would one get in touch?
They could just look me up. They could go to Mirador Real Estate and just go to that website. So we are we are there, and we have our landlord services pages. We have our full like IDX integration there, so they can find everything there is to be found on our Mirador website.
Very cool.
Yeah, and then for developers, they can go to our landlord services page, and we outline all the landlord services that we provide through brokerage and marketing and all that.
Awesome. I
Yeah.
will also include all of this in the description of this
Great.
episode. So
Thank
for
you.
those listening, if you want to get in touch with Karla, we'll make it extremely easy on you. But thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it. Let me ask you one other question before.
Sure.
What do you think? Where do you think in Virginia for sure, and for some of my other clients that I'm working with across the U.S., we're seeing kind of like a shift in, used to be a seller's market, now kind of shifting. Where are you guys seeing, and where do you think it's going to go in the next 6 months?
It's in New York City, it's a total, well, it's a little bit different. I wouldn't even call it like a super buyer's market. It's a buyer over renters market. So we're having a total housing shortage in New York, and politicians in New York keep trying to regulate stuff to try to make it better. But what it's doing is it's just shrinking and shrinking and shrinking the available units on market, which are just raising rental prices. For instance, on the Upper West Side, something that I would put on the market for maybe $4,200 in rent, I could sell it to you and you would be paying $3,500 all in, taxes, maintenance, everything. So my goal this year, because I think the rents are exorbitant in New York City right now, some apartments that are $1,000 difference year over year. If I marketed last year, the exact same apartment this year, it's $1,000 more. It's absurd. So my hope is that we can start to kind of shepherd people into that first time home buyer situation. Because for one of the first times in my career, the delta is so large on rent versus buy monthly payments that you can save $1,000 a month if you're owning it and building equity on a 42 versus 32. I really need to start getting people out of this rental trap because they're paying more and more and more of their income percentage towards rent, and it's going nowhere. So as a homeowner myself, I think it's really important. Equity gives you power, and it gives you power in your job and making decisions and just not kind of being a slave to renting. So I think that we need to start getting the message out that in cities where there are apartments, and in New York City, there's still $250,000 great doorman studios to purchase. That same studio would be $1,000 more in rent to rent versus owning it. And you're not building any equity, you're not getting any tax advantage. So I think it's really important right now, and why we hired more coaching for our agents. It's coaching to get people to have those conversations with clients and really open their eyes, because nobody really knows that you could own right now in New York City for far less than what you're renting for.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, that particular scenario just comes down to a math equation. So
it does. That's all you need to do. And it's like, let's go look at some sales, because the rental market right now is it's absurd. It's so expensive. And people want to blame landlords for it. What it is that the city is making it so hard for developers to develop. They've villainized them so much, and they keep changing the rules in the middle of these deals that developers don't want to develop in New York City anymore. It's not advantageous. And without new development, without enough apartment stock, you're going to create this rental crisis.
Yeah.
And
that's what you're saying. Developers who ordinarily would be working on projects in Manhattan just aren't anymore. Is that what happened?
Are not. Yeah. Because the rules keep changing in the middle. Right now, we have somebody potentially running for mayor that wants to freeze rent stabilized apartment rents. Rent stabilized apartment rents are almost no increase every year anyway. The landlords don't make money on those. And it's like, let's freeze that and make it worse. Yeah. So all these people holding stabilized units are like, well, if we can't even get that, why would we build more? So things of that nature just cause developers there's no incentives really for developers to develop in New York City. And because of that, rents are going to get higher because the stock is smaller. I mean, that's how any market works.
Yeah. Very interesting. Well, it sounds like whoever that person running for mayor is could talk to someone like you and get a really quick education on why that would be
I don't even mind them. It's just that one statement. As a politician, I worked in politics. You have to say things that are quick and simple and appeal to the masses. So people are like, yeah, that sounds great. He also offered like free buses. And I'm like, that sounds awesome, for New Yorkers. Meanwhile, the people that work in buses are probably like, this is why I can't be free. But to me, I'm like, free buses? I think everybody should take the bus for free. That's a great idea. So sound bites are important in politics, and I get that. But you can't keep degrading the developer's asset. It's a private asset. And they've done things from 2019 to now to do that. And it just gets to the point where they're like, if the rules are going to keep changing in the middle, I can't afford to build here. I can't build here. And we're noticing a lot of big developers pulling out of New York, which is creating a lack of housing stock, which is shrinking it. And then the prices go up.
Yeah. What's interesting to me in that scenario is like, development takes years and years of planning and funding.
And you're in the middle of it, and the rules change.
Why would they not say we're changing the regulation? Those who are already, permitted or building, it doesn't affect you.
That's not popular.
It's not popular. So that's why that doesn't happen.
But now nobody can afford to live in New York. So
right.
It's crazy. Here, even if you have like a Section 8 voucher, say your studio Section 8 voucher is like $2,300, because the rents are so high in 13 zip codes in New York. If you have a Section 8 voucher as a single man, it's almost $4,000. So the taxpayers are then now paying because these rents are going up because there's no new development. It's really something to watch. You're like, this doesn't make fiscal sense,
Right.
Yeah,
that's crazy.
Yeah, no, a $4,000 voucher for a studio for a single person would equate to $160,000 a year job.
Yeah,
is what you'd have to make to qualify for that studio, But it's because there's not enough housing for people with the vouchers, which I totally understand. Mm-hmm. But now the vouchers are paying out that much for a one-room apartment.
Man.
Yeah.
Well, I thought Alexandria was expensive, but it sounds like New York is on a whole
probably one of the most
level.
Expensive places right now, and it's artificial, which is sad because it's all things that were well intentioned, but it's artificially inflated at the moment.
Yep. Well, okay. Well, appreciate all your insight in the Manhattan landscape of real estate, and then you and your career in building. I would love to check in with you to see your final year-end numbers of where you are today and what you're going to close out. So let's definitely keep in touch. Thank you so much again for being on the show. All right. Take care.